All right, welcome back to the North American College Championship, round number 2 getting underway in just a moment. And I'm Evans Clinchy, joined by Will Anderson. And Will, it is not every day that you get to play a game of Scrabble against your hero, but for Scott Jackson today, it's his lucky day because he gets to play the one and only Dr. Bing, Dave Wiegand. This is going to be quite a matchup.
Well, yeah, it looks like a tale of two racks here. Scott is very likely to play Jaw, and Dave is going to respond instantly with a bingo of cutties to take the lead. But to your point, Evans, definitely some bromance between these two players. But that being said, I have to imagine that Dave Wiegand has a lot of fans out there because he is a pretty electric player to watch play Scrabble.
Absolutely. We're going to have a fun one here. Just getting caught up on the score and whatnot. All right, so Jaw is on the board and it's 26-0, and then down comes Cuddies right away. So a nice 83-26 lead for Dave right out of the gate. But yeah, as you were saying, Will, Dave is one of the most fun players in the world to watch on stream, I would say. I mean, he has just an incredible command of the words, not just all the words, length 2 through 8, but, nines, tens, all sorts of fun stuff as well. So you never know when you might get some crazy, flashy content for the stream. He's a lot of fun to watch.
He really is one of those few players who, if you're looking over a Scrabble game that you've just played and you see some kind of crazy 9 or 10 letter word and you say to yourself, well, who would find that? Right. I wouldn't find that. Well, Dave Wiegand would. He is one of those few people who is in that class, really, with Nigel Richards and very few other people in the world who have seemingly limitless ability to find words that just shouldn't really be known by anyone, but he knows them all. He's also really good at picking between the words that he sees, and then he's also good at board vision and end game. So that's
The skills you need to be good at Scrabble, those skills.
pretty comprehensive.
Yeah.
That was a good play though by Scott, holding the Q and the Z together with no vowels at all. He pretty quickly identified his correct play of Zerfs, scoring play quite well. So well done to Scott to not make a gut, reaction to that unappealing rack and exchanging the Q or something like that. Obviously, with that U open, he might have opted to keep it if he felt like he could hit a good play there. But that was really by far his best play, and he found it fast.
Yeah, it's a funny counterintuitive move because generally when you see you've got a Q on your rack and somebody puts a U next to a double letter score, you're like, oh, I should put the Q there. So it's kind of weird looking to block the Q and keep the Q on your rack. But when you're scoring 54 with all consonants, not much you can do otherwise.
It's a good question by Ancient Cosmographer in chat. Is he good at tracking? Have you ever heard of Dave Wiegand losing a game by mistracking? I
No.
don't think I have.
No, I don't
Which
think so.
is it's kind of amazing. I certainly
Never
have.
seen him make a scoring error either. Like there's just no, there's no weak spots in like the the basic mechanics of Scrabble or anything like that.
Yeah, I mean, I think the only thing you might say about Dave, and this is purely stylistic, and often I would argue this helps him at least as often as it hurts him, is that he's pretty fearless over the board.
Mm-hmm.
He plays a very aggressive offensive style. And a lot of the time that helps him a lot to pour on points. You're trying to score more points than your opponent, but also there might be a few times where he'll play too aggressively, but that is really splitting hairs. Also, it's up for debate. I wouldn't just assume that to be true just because I'm saying it. I'm just offering if he had any weakness at all, maybe that's it. But that's not even that's just the most hair splitting thing. So
Speaking of offensive, Dave just called Scott a mofo. Apparently, he plays mofo through the F and Zerfs.
better than last game.
Yes, the language is getting a little bit more appropriate each round.
Muffin with Tentacle with the Chuck Norris level assertion that Dave Wiegand tracks and scores the adjacent games as well. That is it's a very Chuck Norris-y thing to say. Like the old, he's playing an 86 in the bag end game.
Yeah, that's the best one. Beat me to it. Yeah, we went through a phase of the Chuck Norris facts about Scrabble players. I think that was maybe 2010 or 11, a long time ago. Good to bring those back.
Was that about Nigel or was it about Dave? I feel like Dave
I
was
think it was originally Adam Logan, actually.
Oh yeah, it's
I
Adam
think this
Logan.
came up. There was an Albany tournament where Adam was like 20-1 or something, and we were making up facts about him during his run.
Got it. Makes sense. And Scott responding to Dave's play of Mofo with another on-brand response for his Scrabble idol there. Moi.
Blowing a kiss at him, yeah.
That's a good play, actually. That's not just content play. That scores really well. He doesn't have a good way to use the cue. And he hasn't really drawn any help for it with all those E's. This is a kind of a case study here of why do Scrabble tournament players dislike that cue so much. It just clings to the rack longer than you would like, prevents you from bingoing, and all the while your opponent with more balanced tiles is getting bingos down and pulling away. Oh, look at that, though.
Speaking of
Oh,
getting bingos down.
that was such a troll. Did you see that, Evans?
Oh, what did he do?
Dave accidentally put numeral down in the wrong spot such that the U was underneath the double letter score, which would have given queen back to Scott and then shifted it over to
Oh, I'm not sure how intentional that was, or if he just put it in the wrong square.
unintentional.
But
It was completely unintentional. It was not.
okay.
It was not 3D chess, 4D chess. It was completely unintentional. But I'm just wondering, Scott saw that. It would be a little extra needle there.
Merely playing two-dimensional Scrabble, sadly.
It's true.
4D chess sounds way more fun.
What would the fourth D be? But I don't even speculate.
Well, usually it's time, so like
well,
you could like move your bishop to a square in the future. Yeah, I don't know.
Oh, yeah, that's too much for my pea brain to comprehend.
Bishop d5, but not this move. It'll happen 10 moves later. Yeah, I don't know.
Oh, God. I'm shuddering. So this is not a great situation for Scott here, and it looks like Dave's drawn pretty well. It feels like well, that's not true. If Scott doesn't block that M, Dave is going to play a mutagen there.
Yep. And it doesn't look...
And he...
Oh, he is going to block it because he's got a Q. There you go.
He is. Wow.
Is he just playing queen? Oh, wow. I mean, I'm not saying it's a bad play necessarily. It's just funny looking.
This makes, it makes a good amount of sense in Scott's position here, down a reasonable amount to one of the best players in the world, creating a spot that's a little scary, but that maybe if Dave doesn't have an S, you force him into making a blocking play just because he doesn't want to get hit with one. And Scott's going to have be pitied if he sees it to the D of Cuddies.
Ooh, nice. Yeah.
Will he spot this? That's his way back into the game. So Dave does not have an S. He's probably going to be risk averse and block the spot. Maybe he'll just play queened. That seems pretty good to block and score well. And then Scott's got a bingo if he sees it. It's a big swing here. Will he spot it? That's a big play, especially when you put it underneath the Z of Zerfs. It's going to score quite well.
Yeah. It doesn't look very likely that Dave's going to block it either. I mean, a lot of his best plays are, extending queen to queened or queening, anything like that. Yeah, seeing that somebody in the chat mentioning that queen-ing looks a little better. I don't know. The leave of AGINO is pretty strong. You can maybe get some sort of bingo out of that soon.
Yeah, well, that's a good point. A lot of reasonable choices there. Extending queen. I guess queenie would be the craziest. Yeah, I don't know. I guess it's possible, given that Dave knows if Scott had an S, he almost certainly would have played it.
Mm-hmm.
I wonder if Dave is going to consider just leaving it alone and playing dingoed to the D of Cuddies, which would be a devastating blow to Scott here.
Yeah, I mean, you were just talking about Dave's fearlessness, right? And like typically in a situation like this, you're up by 50, you can just keep scoring and kind of control, the big scoring spots. That's a pretty reasonable choice. But maybe Dave wants to go for a big win. If anybody were to go for a win like that, it might be more Dave style than most. But
I can't imagine not extending queen here. But Dave is one of the few people that might just say, well, whatever. You didn't have an S. It's not that likely that you have it. I'm going to play dingoed here. I don't care. Which is absolutely a defensible choice. It would just hurt so much if Scott draws an S and plays something huge there. So it seems like based on his rack, he's going to play queening, Evans.
Yeah, he's got the ing arranged there with the leave of ADEO in alphabetical order. It looks like he's preparing to play it. Well, now he's still shuffling his tiles.
Oh my God. That would just be.
Oh, now he's got Jingo. Oh, I see. Okay.
This would
he's
just
thinking
be
about it.
Pure Dave Wiegand here, just saying, I don't care. You could have an S. I don't care. I'm going to play dingoed. See if I care if you play queens. And in this particular case, it's going to work out great for him.
Well, we don't know. Neither one of them's drawn an S yet.
I think that's true. We don't know. The game is longer than just the next turn. It's going to work out very well in the short term. I just would be shocked if he doesn't play queening. And he is going to. Yeah, I definitely would be torn between queened and queening here. Of course, this opens a triple lane. Queened would not open a triple lane, and it would leave ING on your rack at a cost of kind of a weird, clunky leave. But here's the word knowledge check. Does Scott know this word? He might not.
I feel like he's probably seen it, but he also hasn't played Scrabble in a few years, and he is admittedly a little bit rusty. I was just talking with him about that yesterday, about how he's been trying to kind of get his brain back into Scrabble mode, see if he can dig this one out of his memory hole.
Yeah. It's tough because with each passing second, he had a lot of time to think on Dave's clock.
True.
And if he had seen it, I think it would have happened. So every passing second, I feel like it's escaping his notice. But in addition to everything you just said, Evans, about it's been a long layoff and it takes time to get back into Scrabble, you're also on board one being streamed against Dave Wiegand, one of the most intimidating players to play against. So that's another factor. And all right, opportunity gets past Scott here. That is a shame.
Yeah. At least he didn't put the B in open space for Dave to play Carboid. That would have been really bad.
Is it fair to say that we are be-pitying Scott?
Me? Never. Just kidding. I love you, Scott.
I am. That's a shame. I feel like Scott's probably seen that word, but maybe not.
I think so too. Yeah,
and not in several years. And yeah, that's gonna be tough. So let's see what Dave does. That's a big break for Dave, unbeknownst to him. There's no way he could know this, but Scott just missed an 80-something, almost 90-point bingo to strongly, catapult his way back into the game. But Dave is still looking at a pretty open board. I don't know. Maybe it's like a mediocre. It's not so crazy open. Doesn't look like there's very many good S hooks on the board, at least terminal. When you end a word in S, there isn't really an opportunity for that. So it's got opportunities, but it's not. I feel like a play through the D of Cuddies or the E of numeral would start to close the board down very fast if Dave wanted to play something aggressively defensive there. That's not really his style, but he could also just play something shorter and keep really good bingo tiles. He could play something like YEA through the first E of queening, and that leaves really good letters. So he's got, or
YEAD even.
True, OYE, if he wants to keep a better vowel. That's very in keeping with his style. Do you have a prediction of what Dave? Well, I guess now. What's your prediction, Evans, as he places the word on the board?
I'll just be honest and share my wrong prediction. I thought it was going to be Yeed, but he keeps a better leave by playing just the O and the Y.
Yeah. There are definitely players who would have tried to make a board closing play in that position for sure. And this is a pretty textbook Dave Wiegand is not really concerned about that. He's going to try to land that next bingo, which if he gets it, is going to take the game pretty far out of reach, and he
I don't think he's
has
gotten it. Oh wait, he has.
a word on his rack. I'm just looking for a place that he can play it. Dessier. I don't
Yes,
think.
here I don't see. Nothing I can see so far. I'll keep looking. Meanwhile, not a great draw for Scott.
Not at all.
Duplicate E's and I's and T's. Not what he wanted to draw.
He might be. I think he had Petite lined up on his rack, potentially playing that underneath numeral, making some overlaps. That seems possible.
Got words through that N in queening, such as Pinite and Pentiti.
So those, he's got to be careful. I mean, he can't know this. We are sitting here knowing what both players have, but if he plays Pinite, he will get hit with Dessier by Dave. So game hanging in the balance. I guess it kind of was hanging a little bit. It's weird, sometimes you can withstand missing big stuff, like be pitied the way Scott did, and if the game just goes in your favor, you get one or two good draws. But sometimes the slightest little mistake will knock you off that tightrope of your winning chance in the game was going to require near perfect play, and even the littlest mistake will knock you off that course. So still plenty of game. We'll see how pivotal that play becomes, but this one pretty big too, for different reasons. There's a bunch of plays that are all similar, but some of them seem to give Dave a bingo in response and others do not.
If Dave doesn't have a bingo next turn, it's going to be a difficult decision for him. But he might have to find a way to fish, or maybe he tries to blow the rock up a little bit and score some more points. Like I'm seeing one option for Dave might be fishing just the E next to the Z and Zerfs, making ZE and Ed for 14. A play like that is an option, or you could make a longer play. Scott will be fine if he plays something like Petite underneath numeral, making Jap and Ale. That wouldn't give anything back.
It's true.
So there are possible plays that don't get bingoed on.
Yeah, there are a few plays there. But of course, in Scott's shoes, you're not really thinking about that. Like, you need to be making aggressive openings that Dave could potentially use because you're the one down by 100. So I would think that in most cases, if Scott's going to make a play here, it's pretty likely that he'll make a play that yields some opportunity back. And tied is the play that undoubles all three of Scott's letters, similar to what you suggested. And it is going to get hit. Yep. I would assume.
Also, I think tied as a front extension. It's like Bepitide, something like that.
Oh, twisting the knife on him there. Maybe he was setting up. If he draws a B, he can get be pitied. That's mean. All right. Dessier comes down on top of the T as opposed to on bottom. That gets 3 extra points. I don't feel like putting the D out in the triple lane is very different in either of the two spots. Seems all right to me, Evans.
Yep, seems great. Score 75, and the score should be up to date on your screen in just a second. It should be Dave 318 and Scott 165.
So it looks like another game that's headed into somewhat decided territory, although Scott does have pretty solid letters. Not sure if he'll be able to just plop that X down somewhere decent and maybe start to go on a bingoing spree. It seems so rare that when we talk about like, oh, well, it seems like this player just needs to bingo 3 times. Right? That rarely ever happens, but it's not zero. Gotta believe. Oh, we got extra typo in the chat who says, I like big petite here. That was
big petite.
The extension to big, which if there are any interesting extensions to big, we know Dave knows them, right? If he draws hearted or something, he'll play big hearted for sure.
Yeah, or like biguanide or something. Yeah, he'll come up with whatever the crazy
Oh,
word
God.
is.
I didn't know that one.
I might have made it up. Don't take my word for it. Yeah, so the Adam points out in the chat that sexiest is a double-double, and it looks like Scott will indeed find that and play it.
And it's on brand with moi. So Dave playing mofo to signal his feelings about Scott, and Scott responding with moi and sexiest.
Tells you everything you need to know about this matchup.
Scrabble is like that, everybody. You play the words, you're trying to send your opponent a message with every word. Now, obviously, that is completely wrong. The words are very much divorced from their actual syntax and language over the board. But it's funny to think about. Every now and then, maybe you can laugh that the word has a double meaning. So I would strongly expect Dave to play through the D of Dessier.
Yep, something like Cade or Kadai seems like a good option here.
Yeah, I mean, if he wants to keep ing together, you could play Kade. Typically, I think the board has enough going on that he's probably going to do that, but he has set Kadai up, which would be perfectly fine as well.
Totally.
I think those
Seems
plays
pretty
are
straightforward. Just block that triple and score as much as you can. That's Dave's kind of play.
Yeah, not even Dave is so committed to open boards that he would not instantly diagnose the left side of the board as the most salient threat and play in there, especially because there's pretty good scoring plays to be had there too.
Yeah, it's a fairly common sense thing that if the only way to lose the triple, then you should block the triple. And I'm sure Dave has quickly recognized that.
I think that H up in the upper corner and the sevens lane underneath the A and L of numeral, I think there's enough reason to keep ing together that you would want to do that. But this is really not, I don't quibble with this much. I think I would probably play Cade here. But Kadai is quite strong.
He's drawing into a very nice bag of tiles. It's really just high probability stuff everywhere you look. Both blanks, really nice balance of bingo-friendly consonants and vowels. So Kadai is going to be drawing into a nice favorable bag for him.
That's true.
Right, so Dave's up by 130. And Scott still yet to get a bingo down.
That's true. Damn, not how he wanted this to go. Although in his defense, he set some pretty rough racks from the get-go, and the one bingo he had to find was kind of obscure.
Yeah. Not a great rack for him here. Is pig out a word? I think it might be.
It is, yeah.
Yeah.
Can you have a big pig out?
Big pig out. Oh, he has get out through the E in Dessier. That's a nice play if you can spot that. I did not spot it. The computer spotted it for me.
2E. Another relevant word here, perhaps. Oh, yeah, get out. It's very nice through that E. But yeah, Dave up by quite a lot. Letters are kind of middling. I don't think he has anything great, but he should be able to score decently. Open nothing new. Open to Scott, who has terrible letters.
Maybe he'll try to phony Scott with beginner. Or nice. Bigoter. What's he more likely to accept? I'm not sure.
With 2 G's? I mean, I've seen bigot spelled with 2 G's by dumb people on the internet before.
Hey.
But yeah, I don't know. I mean, actually, with just the 1 G, if he had an S, he could extend big to by I don't even know if that's pronounced French style, like by Genet or something like that. But you could add ENER to big. Okay, here's a realistic play. OG looks great.
In the realm of actual words you can play, yeah, there's a nice play. 24 points for OG.
Keeping good letters. Blanks still to come. Neither of which are on Scott's rack, so it's a good odds. He didn't get a blank, but he got some good stuff.
Yep. No bingo on Dave's rack that I can see so far, but I'm
nothing that plays.
Only my first cup of coffee. I'm pretty slow right now.
He has a couple sevens on the rack that don't look like they quite fit, sadly.
Yeah. Meanwhile, not much of anything going on here for Scott. He has something like glut for very few points. It plays up above Dessier there with the overlaps, but pretty gross. Not a lot he can do.
Yeah, I mean, might be getting set to. Oh, he's going to play dull.
And I think Dave still doesn't have a bingo because relevant and Levanter, those don't fit. Yeah.
That's, yeah, man.
Oh, wait. Maybe he does have a bingo. No, he doesn't. I can't.
I don't think it quite fits, but I haven't confirmed it yet. So anyway, your suggestion of glut, probably keeping things a little tighter and just throwing in the towel there. This play feels a little bit like it's Scott still trying to make something happen, opening some space, which of course you got to try. You got to go for it. But I just feel like it's tough against somebody like Dave. Sometimes in certain situations you might say, well, maybe I'll try to get my opponent might play a phony, or you might miss something, might miss a hook, right? Like that's just not really happening ever with Dave.
Yeah, probably not. So
what
Dave's
should
up
he do?
Yeah, I don't know. He's up by 118. He doesn't need to bingo or anything, but he's probably thinking bingo with a rack this close to one.
Oh,
There's
yeah.
not a lot of great like fishes or anything though.
Yeah, but you can blow the rack up and score a lot through that eye. There's a number of things that you can play.
Yeah.
Extra typo suggests Vayner, but you can actually go even further down and catch points for the X by playing Naivete.
Or Everate. Yeah, those are the two.
Or Everate, which I think are both worth it.
That seems like the kind of play Dave would both find and would make. He probably recognizes that it's not the best board in the world to fish on. And also he probably recognizes that he can dig deeper into that tile bag and find some good stuff, including the two blanks, by playing a longer play.
Yeah, that's even more reason to play any extra tile that you can. You get more points for it, and you get potentially likelier blanks showing up with so few tiles left and both of them lurking.
Tile pool's looking a little bit clunkier than it did a couple turns ago. It's a lot of heavy consonants, B, F, H, V, Y, and the vowels are weird. It's like 4 O's and only 1 E, but still, you got 2 blanks. Like it's a good pool.
Yeah, I mean the best thing you can say is if you go really hard for the blanks, you might pick up some of that clunk, but it means Scott doesn't get the blanks, which is very helpful. And okay, so he plays Vina instead. This is a pretty good play. I actually feel like this is on par with some of the other plays we suggested. It's in a totally different part of the board, and it's very blocky. Blocks the L, both L's, pretty effectively of dull, and that V out in space blocks the I of queening as well. So this looks like a pretty solid play, and Dave did not draw a blank.
Yeah, both blanks still out there. We've seen all but 12 of the tiles at this point, and the 2 of the last 12 are going to be blanks.
So Josh suggests that Vina using the E's was unwise, which I can appreciate that. With so few E's to come, no chance of getting another one. Maybe you want to keep one, but I certainly would not consider this to be a big mistake. It does a lot of good things. You're still getting 5 tiles off your rack to go for those blanks. But I do appreciate that if you could keep an E, it would be nice to do so. And Vego goes down. Scott really just struggling with Clunk.
I believe Vego is a vegetarian, of which Scott is one.
Ah, okay.
Just random trivia for you all.
If he wanted to really be crazy, he could have played that. He would have had to use the last E, which maybe he doesn't want to do, but he could have played that with Lav underneath Vina and just open like a wild man. That doesn't feel like it ever works out well, but it was available in that spot too. That's the type of play where you would play it and think to yourself, well, maybe Dave plays a phony, or maybe he does something dumb. Dave very rarely does something dumb.
Rarely, if ever. Yeah. Not a great rack for him here. Trying to find a way to play through these R's. It's not easy. He's got a nice play of Thorpe, Thorp, up top of Dessier. That does keep 2 of the R's, but what are you going to do?
Looks nice. He set it up.
Yep. Meanwhile, we have seen a blank. We've got a blank sighting. And it looks like
they're taking their sweet time.
Yeah. Looks like Scott is going to have some bingos because, Dull takes a Y and he's drawn a Y. So something like beatify, however you pronounce that word.
I would say maybe that's correct. I would have just said beatify.
I'm not sure what's correct.
I don't think that's right. Beatific. I don't know. Isn't that like a religious word?
Probably.
To make
I'm not an
blessed.
expert on such things.
We got any experts on pronunciation here? Beatify? Adam says that's correct.
Yes. The blind squirrel finds a nut.
So how do I say the adjective version? Beatific?
Beatific, or I'm not sure.
All right,
Thorpe is being played. Yes. Okay.
I see. Thank you, ancient cosmographer.
This is great. We're learning a lot.
Yeah, it's the only bingo there. Beatify and Dully. Oh, I thought he was reaching for the blank slip. He's reaching for the bag instead, just to check. For anybody that's unaware, we have little pieces of paper that resolve disputes. When you have a blank tile, you have to actually circle the letter you want it to be. So there can be no he said, she said. Just look at the slip. I thought Scott was reaching for that, but not this time.
Adam points out in the chat that Dave's rack is looking kind of forlorn.
The puns, a very punny bunch that Scrabble players and Scrabble fans are. Unsurprising. And there, he's set it up. I don't think that I'm trying to imagine in my head. I don't think that, Beatify will not give back a spot for that. So
nope.
Well, this game is not coming down to the wire. You see the score strongly in favor of Dave Wiegand, but sometimes you just get a run of games like this, and then it's followed up by a bunch of games that are incredibly close. So we'll hope for some nail biters.
Yeah, we're going to have round 3 coming up in a little bit, and I believe we have the pairings already set for round 3, and I think, let me just make sure I'm not giving you guys any misinformation, but I believe we're going to have, we're going to have Quinn James and Chris Lipe coming up in round 3 on board
Ooh,
1. So if you guys
that's a
want to
good
stick around
one.
and watch Quinn versus Chris, that'll be great. And then we're going to have one more round after that, round 4, before the lunch break. So 2 more games coming up. If you're just joining us, you missed David Whitley with the win over John O'Loughlin in round 1 of this tournament. Now we've got Dave and Scott here in round 2 with Dave in a pretty commanding position. So that's where we're at. And then we're going to have Quinn versus Chris Lipe coming up in just a little bit.
It's a good matchup for round 3. Like we were saying earlier, there's really nowhere to hide in these divisions.
Yeah, and we were talking earlier about how, Scott had a long layoff from Scrabble and, just came back for this being his first tournament back. Quinn James in the same boat. I mean, she's really been gone for, I think she told me yesterday that her first, or she's played like 1 tournament since 2017. So it's her 2nd event in the last 6 years. So great to see Quinn back on the tournament circuit and one of the top seeds in this event. So that'll be exciting to watch Quinn versus Chris coming up next round.
Quinn had one of the craziest plays I've ever heard, playing Durukuli through disconnected letters at a tournament a few years ago.
What even is?
One of the craziest plays I've ever heard being made.
That's
so
awesome.
Definitely a lot of talent coming at us early. Up. Bonnie. Okay, so probably Scott missing the 1 bingo that he did have. I don't see a real reason to pass it up. You're not going to win the game or do any better by not playing it. So he's probably keeping the Y to try to draw a bingo with Dully.
He might get better spread by bingoing out. I'm trying to be generous here. It's probably not the best play.
Yeah, he has bayonet now.
Oh, that's true.
It's going to be kind of tough for Dave to block that. I would imagine in his shoes, he might just play something like fret and 4 at the top of the board.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe he'll try to block. Maybe he's going to look and see that Y in the bag, and he is going to consider making a blocking play that gets in the way. Maybe he can use his blank as a Y if he wants. Not sure what he would do. Nope, he's just going to go ahead and say, if you have bayonet, go ahead and get some extra spread. Seems all right, I guess. Maybe there's a better way to block. So
one wonderful fish asking, how do you even spell that word? I'm guessing that's about Durukuli, or whatever that word was that Quinn played.
Oh yeah, let's have the bot do it. A small, look at that variation. Wow, I've never even seen that before.
Durukuli. Oh my god.
Yeah, pretty impressive stuff. Scott has a little time to find, is that it? Oh no, he has analyte as well. So 2 7-letter words on his rack that will play with Dully. I think he's likely to find one. Mm-hmm. Dave's probably spotted them both.
Yeah, so bayonet would be 81 points, analyte would be 68. Either one of them would end the game with a little bit more respectable final score for Scott, although he's still going to come up short in this game against Dave.
Here we go. Bayonet,
and he's
here
found
it comes.
the best one. Yep.
Nice.
Yeah, so the blank is a B, and it's bayonet for 81 and out, which will keep the final margin of victory under 100 for Dave Wiegand. Respectable. Scott's laughing about something.
Yeah, probably something like, we could forget about this game. But he had basically that one chance, right? Queen, that play of Queen was very clever. It distracted Dave into playing at the bottom of the board. He played queening, and then Scott had that one chance of playing Be Pitied. But that's a word that, obviously a very obscure word, archaic word. If you haven't seen that word, there's almost no chance you're going to play it. And even if you have, if it's been a while, it's just not one that's, if you've studied it, it'll come up quickly. But if you haven't, it's going to be tough to play that one. And that really underscores the importance of that pre-tournament preparation, which Scott's been out of the game for a few years. So give him another year or so, and he'll probably find that with regularity.
I would also just kind of say conversely, credit to Dave. I mean, his opening rack of cutties is not the most obvious word in the world. It's a little bit obscure. If you don't know it or you just miss it for some reason, the entire game goes differently. You don't get the opening bingo down. Maybe Scott starts out of the gate with the lead. So just, the fact that Dave was able to find his opening bingo and take the lead early, really swung the entire game from turn one.
Oh, you guys are saying in chat that maybe the reason he's laughing is that he transposed and he almost played Bayouent.
Bayouent.
Which, for the record, is not valid.
Looks like lots of post-mortem discussion between these two guys after the game. I wonder what they're talking about. One of the more interesting positions in this game was Dave's position after queen came down, like whether to play something like queening or queened or to leave that hook open. Probably if I were in Dave's position, that's the move I'd be talking about. But I don't know. Lots to discuss from this one. It was a kind of a weird game. Lots of just strange, funky positions. But Dave comes out on top in the end. 472, 376, the final score here.
Yeah, it would have been the Davest move ever to just ignore queen completely and play dingoed, blocking Bepitied in both of the spots with the D of cutties, the two Ds of cutties. That would have been stunning. I am not 100% sure that was best, but it feels like the sort of play that our engines might like, right? And very few humans would have the guts to do, but Dave is one of the few. But ultimately, I think he did fine, to extend queen, and it just didn't work out for Scott there.
Nope. All right, so I think we're going to take a quick break between the rounds 2 and 3 and then come back in a few minutes. But yeah, thanks for joining us here for round 2 as Dave Wiegand gets the best of Scott Jackson, 472 to 376. We'll be right back in a few minutes with Quinn James versus Chris Lipe. So don't go anywhere. Round 3 of the North American College Championship coming up soon. We'll talk to you in a little bit.